We're live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Conscious Chats with Sandra Meehan on My Time TV and also over on the Power For You page. So wherever you're watching us, whatever platform, whatever page you're watching us, welcome to today's show. Now, I've got a really special guest today, and I'm really looking forward to talking to him. Yes, I have brought you a wonderful man today, and our subject is all about depression. So, and how you can thrive through depression and how it's a gift. And, you know, Bob is we've just been talking prior to starting the show, and there's something that he told me that I actually didn't know. There's that every 11 seconds or every 40 seconds, someone dies of depression. And he may correct me on that when he comes on the show, and that's okay if I've got it wrong. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight into my guest today, Bob Eden. Bob's from the Whitsundays up in Queensland, Australia, just not far. Well, it's a bit of a drive. It's a day's drive from where I live. And after more than 20 years of fighting depression, psychologists, psychiatrists, and many cycles of medication, one simple personal insight was brought home to Bob. To those beautiful people who have suffered from depression, Bob says thank you. Simply thank you for doing such a wonderful job. Bob goes on, I was delivered by cesarean section. My mother never forgave me for the scar on her belly. And when I read this earlier, when Bob sent it through, it actually brought tears to my eyes and shivers, because what an awful thing to have to go through. And I know that there's many of you out there that would probably just that one word, delivered by cesarean section, mother never forgave you for the scar that she is carrying. So Bob's mum was prone to violent outbursts of rage. So Bob got the crap beaten out of him many times. The message that Bob internalized was, Mum is often beating me, therefore she does not love me. Now that's just that's a powerful phrase there, because many people out there, whether you suffer from depression or lack of self-love or whatever, this is the underlying cause of it. And Bob felt he must be unlovable, and it is all his fault. The world is not a safe place. And I know myself, I thought that growing up as a child too, through to some things that happened in my own childhood. Bob's dad was a mythical being who was always at work. So the message that Bob got from that as a child was, Dad never spends any time with me, therefore he does not love me. So I must be unlovable and it's all my fault. Bob became a people pleaser and totally abandoned any of his needs. And I know there's many people can relate to that, and anybody that watches or follows me knows that I do a lot of work around this, people pleasing. And the other day I posted a post that we learn the art of people pleasing by becoming a parent pleaser. John Bradshaw's work on the inner child and family of origin opened the floodgates for Bob, as Bob began to understand what his dysfunctional childhood had produced. Bob spent the first 40 years of his life chopping off bits of himself to fit in, and the remainder going back and gathering them all up. Bob now knows that it's okay. Now know that all of him is okay, and it's okay to be him. Bob realised that I am the only expert on my life, and the pain of depression was the pain of humanity having to live in such a crazy society. So Bob started the dance, which is now over. For Bob, he believes we are all victims of victims, and so do I. And if you don't hand it back, you pass it on. Time to break this multi-generational cycle of abuse. And I'm really looking forward to chatting with Bob, because I've actually never shared this subject from a from a man's perspective, from a masculine perspective. Most of the people that I interview on depression are all females, and we hear it from women. And it's really exciting and to hear it from a male's perspective, what's happened to him, because as many of us that do these live shows and that in the empowerment industry, we are mainly female, and sometimes the men don't get a voice. And my platform is equal to both men and women, and it is my absolute honour to bring Bob up. In 3, 2, 1, he will be on. Good morning, Bob.
Hey, son.
How are you?
Hey, you're looking good. You're looking good.
Thank you.
How am I? I am awesome.
Yeah.
My life is awesome, for I create it that way. But it took a long time to get here. And thank you so much for allowing me to gain a broader platform to share my message. It's been a long road.
It's important, but you're welcome. And it's really, really important at this time with change on the planet, with so much coming up. And I know that this is going to be a very helpful, because I know what's coming up on the planet as we move forward into a new way of being, that so many people even now are in that cycle of depression. And as we move forward, there's going to be more fall into that, because things aren't what they seem to think that they are or that they were. And that's for a whole nother show, and we might do that later on when lots of stuff comes out and you can help more people to share that. It's also awesome to have, as I said in the start of it, to have a man on the show to share this from a male's perspective, depression and that, because very few men do open up about their depression and what it brought. And for you to take it simply back to your birth and your mother, that's where everything starts. And I'm a big believer that it starts from the mother, because we expect our mother to be protective and loving and all of that. And sometimes she's not because she can't be. And that's because she's got her own stuff going on in her own internal dialogue, and because then mum doesn't protect us with dad and all of that. And it does start from the woman, and it's when we can make that change and we can identify that they're doing the best that they can, but they carry their own stuff, and we see past the word mother to the woman that sits behind it, and see past the word father to the man that sits behind it, then we can understand that they've got their own stuff and they're just passing it on to us. And we, this generation, and I'd say you would be round about my age.
68.
Oh, you're a bit older than me, but we're still in that age group. I'm 60, but it's our generation that has come to stop this. It's our generation that's come to bring awareness and say, let's not pass this on to future generations. Let's stop this and make the planet and our lives a far better place for future generations. Do you have any children, Bob?
I was in the Merchant Navy in the 70s, so the only two I will own up to. I have a stepdaughter. When I got married, my wife had a 5-year-old girl, and then we produced a son. So I have fathered one son and parented 2 children, and until the others catch up with me.
I like that. That's. I think that's what every sailor says, don't they?
Well, my days of the 70s on the cruise liners were, I couldn't write a book because they wouldn't let me publish it. But I would like to start and just share my story, the wounds and lessons of childhood.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Please do. Please do.
Thank you. And if you've got some tissues handy, I might need them. Okay, here we go. And I'll try and be as succinct as I can. But I'll stick to this script because it came to me about 7 years ago at 3 o'clock in the morning. I just woke up, got on the laptop, and just typed this through. And it came as a complete download, and I haven't changed it. I'll stick to it. Right. I was born in 1952 in England, very premature and delivered by caesarean section. My mother never forgave me for the scar on her belly. I was about 2 pounds at birth and was not expected to live, but I did because I'm a survivor. I'm not sure why I chose my family. Mum was prone to violent outbursts of rage, so if I got in range, then I got hit, whether I'd been good or bad. So basically, I got the crap beaten out of me for many years. So the message I internalized at that time was, Mum is often beating me, therefore she does not love me. So I must be unlovable and it's all my fault. And the other message was, and the world is not a safe place. My dad was a mythical being who was always at work. He came home after I went to bed and left for work before I came down for breakfast. So the message I got from Dad was, Dad never spends any time with me, therefore he does not love me. So I must be unlovable and it's all my fault. When I was 6, Dad disappeared completely. He had a nervous breakdown and committed himself to Fairmont Hospital in Wallingford. And I went to see him when I was 9, and by that time he was institutionalized, just wandering around muttering phrases that he'd heard from the psychiatrist. He did not need my mum, a rageaholic, and Dad, a workaholic. I became the people pleaser and totally abandoned my needs to please others, and that's a habit that I took way too far into adulthood. Looking back, when I was about 3, it felt like someone had given me a wheelbarrow, and so I started pushing it. I was young and strong, so it was okay, but as I moved through life, more junk was dumped into it, like my childhood abuse, socio-cultural conditioning, the indoctrination of the education system, and all the rest of our society's constraints. So I kept pushing the wheelbarrow until such time as it got too heavy to push anymore. That time was November 1984, when at 3 a.m. I had my first panic attack and began my dance with depression. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't think my way out of it. I had a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful kids, a great job in research with ESSO. We were living the ideal magazine life, detached house, holidays in France. So what happened? And so the cycle of medications and psychologists and psychiatrists began and continued for many years. And just skipping back to my childhood to keep things chronological, when did I first start disbelieving in me? And my earliest recollection was I was about 4 3/4 years old, and 3/4 is important when you're little. And I woke up Sunday morning and got dressed and put on my favourite red t-shirt and brushed my hair and combed my teeth and bounced down to breakfast. And Mum looked at me and said, Bobby, go upstairs and put on your blue t-shirt. You know you love your blue t-shirt. So I stood up confused, thinking, well, no, I love my red t-shirt. That's why I put it on. But I can't argue with Mum. She's angry, she's violent, she's about 80 foot tall. I mustn't upset her. And that's my earliest recollection of starting no longer to believe in myself. And that just extrapolated through my adult life. Oh. Anyway, so how did I dig myself out of this hole? My family and I emigrated to Australia, yay, in 1989 for a fresh start. But after 13 years of working so hard, we realised that we'd become strangers and that our marriage was as shallow as the rest of my life. After a lot of soul searching, we agreed to part, and Pam and the kids went back to the UK. I stayed. I knew at some level that this is where I meant to be. I must have cried for 6 months, but had great support from friends in the folk scene in Perth. I got a good job in automotive research and started rebuilding, but still with the old survival behaviours in place. My eyes are getting a bit foggy. My intellect was having its ball working in research, and I was developing a following in the folk scene and playing in many bands in Perth and began touring in WA. But my heart was heavy, and I was still fighting with depression, and it would be many years before I turned that fight into a dance. Now, living in Freo, I got involved in personal growth and eventually became a counsellor. And the first course I took was an ACA 12-step program for adult children of absent parents, which was very helpful up to a point where you have to surrender to God. I knew then that this was a parting of the ways, because I knew within my heart it was my job to heal me. I had to do the work. I could not pass the responsibility on to anybody else. And then next, I did a course on anger management, because Mum had all the anger, so I never learned how to deal with it. Anyway, here comes my first saviour. About 1993, I came across John Bradshaw's work on the inner child and family of origin. Was so impressed with his work that with my partner at the time, we bought all the tapes and used to run weekly group sessions. Now, John's work opened the floodgates for me as I began to understand what my dysfunctional childhood had produced. And I suppose it was at this time that I started to develop my own sense of noticing or awareness. Depression was still rolling in and out, and then one day I realised that medication only lasts for a couple of months and then produces the same symptoms it is supposed to cure. And with my continued research into depression and mental illness, I realised that not one psychologist or psychiatrist has ever claimed to have cured anyone. All they can do is work with the mind, medicate the pain, and provide coping skills to handle the pain. And I think it was Jesse Green in Freo that gave me this phrase: if you don't hand it back, you pass it on. And I let that bubble for a while. And then one day, I sat down and I wrote a letter to Mum. Dear Mum, I'm writing to you to tell you how I felt for me growing up in a... So I sat down and wrote about how I hated being hit so often, or how she never came to school sports days, how she kept reminding me of a scar on her belly. Anyway, what I thought would be 2 pages ended up being like, that thick. It was like War and Peace. But at least I got it all out. I got it all on paper, and then I signed it. Your loving son, Bob. Please tell me your story. And this is the hardest thing I ever did. I posted that letter to Mum in England. And eventually I got a letter back from Mum saying, I'm just telling you my story. Please tell me your story. So eventually she wrote back, and she was born in Germany in 1924 between the wars. Her dad was an alcoholic and Mum was a control freak. And I just realised that Mum had a real shit childhood too. And then the light bulb went off. Yes, Mum was doing her very best, but all she was doing was dumping on me what got dumped on her. So by her sharing her story, I could move from that position of hate through understanding. Spoke on the phone, and that was the first time we actually spoke as mother and son, as 2 adults, and we both crying our eyes out. And then 2 days later she died. And what a beautiful closure. What a
Yeah.
beautiful closure. And then I'm walking around like somebody's taking an elephant off my shoulders. Oh, but there's still this niggle here. This little niggle. What's this niggle? Right, Dad, you bastard. So I got the notepad out and wrote a letter to Dad. Same thing, you know, why didn't you? And for me,
we've got a really bad connection, Bob. You keep dropping out. Your sound keeps dropping out.
do I speak slower or turn the video off?
No. I just think that it's the connection, the internet connection.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll make sure I've got nothing else on my internet connection. So I'm down to only this window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Can I ask you a few questions?
You have my sole attention.
Thank you. So,
yeah. I'm just.
It's amazing that how much of
I just mark where I got to.
Yep. So it's amazing how our childhood can affect what we do in adult life, and awareness is really, really important to become aware of what's happening in our lives. So how did it feel for you the moment that you became aware that the medicines and everything like that wasn't working? How did that come about?
Yeah, well, I'm just about to get to that in my story, actually. So I'll answer it by completing it, which is probably only about four or five paragraphs. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Thanks, Sandra. Thanks for your patience.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 1995 or 96. My mind was having a ball, but my soul was crying. Depression was still ruling the roost. I was performing at Araluen Festival, and there was a combi for sale, so I bought it for $3,000. Got it back home, fitted a pop top, and set it up for the mobile life, and I was ready. I remember going to my boss, Chris, and saying, "Chris, I fear if I lose this job, I'll die, so I quit." And he was aware of my state of disease, and his answer was beautiful. He said, "Yeah, Bob, I kind of get that." Anyway, I put my house on the market, and anything that wouldn't suit the combi life, I just sold and gave away. And the first thing that I got rid of was the TerraVision. There was no room for a TerraVision in the combi, and that's 1995. And then waiting for the house to sell, I planned my tour of the folk festivals, and once the money was in the bank, I was off. But don't get me wrong, I only realised about $35,000 from the sale, but it funded my first tour as a folk singer around Australia. Anyway, cut a long story short, people loved what I did, and so I showed them what I was capable of the first tour round. And then when I applied for all the festivals next year, they all booked me. So the next year was self-funding. And so the wheel went round and round and round. And I did that. I went around about 8 times on the combi. Now, the combi finally died around about 2003. And I found myself up in Queensland and connected with Winterman Festival and lived there for a while. I managed the festival in 2007. And, I've got some maritime qualifications. I had my coxswains and my engine driver's certificate from my time with P&O, my time with the Lewin and Fremantle. And so I got to work on the boats in the Whitsundays. And I eventually got my Master 5. And I became a commercial skipper. And then the light bulb went off. You know, bugger Bob, you are totally responsible for the lives of all these people on this vessel. You're even responsible for the vibe on the vessel. So all I did was I took that ideology and applied it to my life. Yes, I am master and commander of my life, and I take full responsibility for this life that I do create. And I'll come back to this, and I will answer your question about the realization about the pharmaceuticals. I was living on my boat in Pioneer Bay. I lived on it for 8 years, and I just realized that every time I changed antidepressant, I became a different person I didn't like. And then from my continued research into all the antidepressants, and I've taken them all over 25 years, they all have a commonality, and that common denominator is they can all produce feelings of anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. And I thought, well, this is a no-brainer. This is an absolute no-brainer. They don't want cures, they want customers. So I sat down on a boat and I asked myself this question: Bob, what's the longest relationship you've ever had in your life? And the answer was simple. The longest relationship I've ever had in my life is with me. Ergo, I'm the only expert on my life. Why am I listening to these? I was going to swear, but I won't. These people out there that are telling me there's something wrong with me. So let's sit with this pain of depression. Let's sit with it. So I sat with the pain of depression, and again, another light bulb went off. And I'm very empathic. I've always been very, very sensitive. But the light bulb went off. And I realized that this pain of depression, which is very, very real, was just a natural human response to having to live in such a corrupt society as a wage slave. We, as human beings, are not here to live in this corruption. And so the pain I was feeling is my inner knowing, my heart, just telling me, we're not supposed to live this way. You are not supposed to live this way. And then the other ingredient was the realization that I no longer believed in myself. I believed in what other people said about me. And so I went back and reclaimed my belief in myself. And so on the boat, I threw my meds overboard, probably produce a few psychotic sharks, but never mind. And I spent the next 2 or 3 weeks going to hell and back 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 times a day, just letting all the feelings that I'd swallowed over the years, I just vomited them out, just got them out. And there was another bumper sticker came out, like, feelings are healings. But on my own personal growth journey, like when I was with ESSO in research, I've got an amazing intellect. And my intellect was having a ball, but my soul was dying. And then when I set off around Australia, I had Shakti Gawain's book, Creative Visualization. So I came up with this video where I'm running down a tunnel with the fluorescent lights, dum, 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 and there's a big sliding glass door that opens, and I enter, and I can hear the dark satanic hum of the hard drives of my mind. And then over on the right hand side, there's a big red switch. So I amble over to the big red switch, and somebody had posted a health warning. Beware. Thinking can seriously damage your well-being. So I just grabbed the big red switch and went kerclunk and turned my mind off, and I could hear the hard drive spinning down. Now I played that video over and over and over again until this phrase popped out, which is, my mind is just a tool that I use when I choose, for I am so much more than my mind. And I kept repeating that, And now I treat my mind like I treat my little puppy dog Barnaby, who's just asleep on the bed behind me. And so I say to my mind, "G'day, mind. You go off and do some research on sonoluminescence or whatever, and come back and report to me." So off it goes, wagging its little tail because it's had some attention from the master. It comes back, reports to me. I say, "Thank you, mind. Here's a treat. Back in your basket. I'll take you for a run tomorrow." And that's how I learned to silence my mind. And once I learned to silence my mind, I could clearly hear my heart. And my heart is my only compass, and my intuition is my only guide.
Awesome. So getting back to the, because I mean, I want to give the viewers that watch this some tips and that. So getting back to the awareness around the medication, what did it feel like for you, other than vomiting and all that when you got off of it? What tips would you give to somebody watching to help them get off medication?
Well, I never give advice. All I can do is just share what works for me. And I realized that my biggest fear was the fear of how powerful the feelings I was having were. They were very, very powerful. And that frightened me. And it was that fear of the overwhelming power of those feelings that drove me to take antidepressants, because they level it down. So I'm not against antidepressants. I think there is a time and a place for them, like when your feelings are so overwhelming that you can't function. But for me, I had to take a leap of faith, Sandra. I had to take a leap of faith, and I'll quickly share it with you. And I'm back on the boat, Pioneer Bay, probably 7 or 8 years ago, 7 o'clock, 7:30 at night, and it's dark. I'm sitting there on the laptop on my dog's Facebook page, which always got a giggle, and all of a sudden the lights went dim. So I looked over at the voltmeter, 12.8 volts. No, that's all good. And I couldn't breathe. And just here was a black, silky, wispy presence that no matter how I turned, I couldn't, get full view of it. And I thought, oh no, hello, old friend. Oh dear, it's all over, Red Rover. The Grim Reaper has come to get me. And I don't know about you, Sandra, but in those moments of near death, time just becomes irrelevant. So I'm sitting there and I just typed into Facebook, "Hey guys, if I don't type anything in the next 20 minutes, can you get volunteer marine rescue to come out and get Barnaby?" My fear was that if I died, then after he'd eaten me, he would die, And so I'm sitting there and I still can't breathe. Now, and I could have typed in, "Please send the ambos, blah, blah, blah." But I just sat with my body and listened to my body and followed my body. And so I'm naked. I'm in the boat. It's the tropics. That's what I do. That's what a lot of people do. Anyway, I walked up the companionway, got on deck, and I could see 2 full moons. And I'm surrounded by mangrove trees where crocodiles live. It's after dark when sharks feed. And I just jumped into the ocean. And I laid back like a great big starfish. And then almost immediately, I just went, and I could breathe again. And that was the night I consciously chose to trust my intuition. That was my leap of faith. And so going back to the medications, I realized that, yeah, they're really powerful. The feelings I'm having are really powerful, but they are only a measure of how powerful I can be. So instead of denying them, I jumped into them. I swam in them. I wallowed in them. I absorbed them. They became You know, I'm as powerful as the feelings that I have.
Yeah. And to get through what you went to realize with your mother and your father, did you get to that place of true forgiveness for them and unconditional love?
Yeah.
And what did it feel like once you did that?
Well, it's like when I got Mum's story back, you know, it was through her sharing her story that I could realise that, yeah, Mum was just doing her best. You know, and Dad was doing what dads did then. They brought home the bacon. And he worked himself so hard that he had a nervous breakdown. And so, you know, although misguided, I still got to love him for his efforts. But I still have the right to say that you should have been there for me as a child, and you weren't. And that's okay. That's okay. But the caveat to the story with my mum is about 2 years ago, I contacted Mum through a spiritual medium who shared stuff with me that only Mum and I knew, right? And Mum was standing there crying her eyes out with tears of joy, saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, Bobby, for writing that letter, for she is now going through the same process with her parents in the beyond."
Mm.
And that just blew me away. So, you know, for me, we're all victims of victims. And for me, it's time to break that multi-generational cycle of abuse.
And yeah, and our inner child holds a lot of hurt, and it just goes back generations. We come in with it, and what from my understanding and what my beliefs is that we choose our parents to teach us that lesson, and it's sometimes we don't learn it, so the behaviour will continue and continue. But until we learn it, especially as adults, and I know that in my own life, whatever happened to me in my childhood, I passed some of that stuff on to my daughter, and I did exactly the same thing to her until I became aware of, oh my God, this is history repeating itself. It needs to change. So once you do that, you break it for yourself, but you break it for future generations so they don't have to come back and feel the pain that we did. But more importantly, we break it for generational as well, because it goes backwards.
Yeah. Now, what I would like to say now is, beyond depression and beyond that rite of passage, my life is awesome. And I go back to master and commander. I am master and commander of my life, and I take full responsibility for this life that I do create. And so, as master and commander, I thought, well, what's my purpose? Well, I'm master. I'm going to set my life purpose. And I set my life purpose to be to simply to find my own truth. And how do I know what is my own truth? Whatever resonates with my heart. So boom, I got the big one out of the way. And then the second thing I pondered, because I don't like the word thinking, the second thing I pondered was, as a spiritual being enjoying a physical experience, how do I want to experience this life? So I set my own conscious life intention, which is, I am here to have a gentle, joyful, loving, healthy, and abundant life. And since I put that conscious life intention in place, that is precisely how my life is unfolding. So I have no fear of the future. I've healed my past. I love living in the now. For me, nature is nurture. I don't own a pair of shoes. I drink rainwater. I don't put any, well, I've tried to minimize any toxins that I put into my body. But after 25 years of feeling suicidal, there's all these people saying, oh, your body's a temple. But for me, at the moment, I treat my body more like a bouncy castle. It's here for me to have fun, you know. So currently, I probably drink too much, I smoke too much, I exercise about as much as a koala, but I am content with me, right here, right now. And for me, that is priceless. And for me, we are all Sue. We are all sovereign, unique, and equal. And the universe operates under the KISS principle, keep it simple, sovereign. So for me, because we're all unique, there is no argument. There's only difference. You have your truth. You have the courage to share it. I share my truth. I don't expect them to agree. You know, only ego claims to speak for all. You know.
I think the law, when it comes to law, it's common law, and laws. The laws have been. I'm not even going to go down that track, but there is certain laws that we live by. Don't hurt another person. All these things. Don't rob another person. Do unto self as you wish others to do unto you. And if we can stick to that, everything becomes lawful to me. As long as I'm not hurting somebody else intentionally, or and I don't want to hurt anybody unintentionally, but I would, if I'm not going to take another person's life or steal from them, or in my business do things underhanded to get somebody into my business and stuff like that. And in everyday life, we're all living. That's what we come here to do, is to be ourselves and to live in a space of unconditional love for ourselves. But also for others, but more importantly, to be of service to humanity. And we can have as much as we like. We can have as many possessions as we like on this planet. We can have the best houses, the best cars, but what's important is that we are serving humanity without wanting a result back from them. So it's not about what is in it for me. It's how I can be of service to others. And then the world around us is abundant, and abundance comes into us. And this is the new world that we're going through. And as we go through our depressions and our ups and downs, and we bring out our own inner swamp, which is what you basically did. You brought up and went through your own inner demons and swamps and feelings and dark side of the moon, or dark side of the soul, and then come out the other side to bring awareness to others, because our journey is just not our journey, it's our journey, but it's bringing awareness to others to say that you can go through this as well, and this is how I've done it, and you could put some of these steps in place to follow it yourself if you choose to. And that's what I mean about giving advice is probably the wrong word, but it's saying this is how I've done it, you might like to try it.
Yeah, precisely. And for me, there is one key word that underpins this great awakening, and that's integrity. Yeah. And the mind's predicted it. The age of integrity is overcoming the age of power, and wherever I look globally, you can see it happening. And all this stupidity and craziness that's going on in the world, for me, is so understandable, because the empire is crumbling, the beast is dying and becoming more ridiculous and frantic in its final death throes. So I'm so grateful to be alive to witness the ascension of humanity from greed and corruption to what we were born to live in harmony and cooperation and compassion and support. We're all in this together, and we are all one. And if we are all one, we are equal by definition. So this is an amazing time to be alive. I just love it. And thank you so much, Sandra, for giving a chance. I know we're all unique, but I found my way through, and I'd quickly just share the steps that I went through. Step number 1 was empty the wheelbarrow. Step number 2 was question everything that does not resonate with my heart. 3, deprogram myself from all the conditioning, especially codependent behavior, and that's a real hard one. And then reestablish my belief in me, follow my heart, trust my intuition, and giggle a lot. We're here to giggle. We're here to laugh. We're here to have a joyous living experience. So thank you for helping me get my message out there, Sandra. You're an angel.
And so are you, Bob. We're all Earth angels. Everyone's here that's on the planet at this moment have come here to bust the system's wide open. Some are choosing to do it. Some are choosing not to, and that's okay, because that's their own inner fear that stops them. That's their own fear of that's holding them back. And as they go through, for those of us that are aware of the change, it's for us to hold that space for them, that when they are ready, that we're here to hold their hand out and say, it's okay, I'll help you through that. Because there was a point in everybody's life where we were in exactly the same boat where they are. And I think with this new age industry, the new age so-called industry, and the love and light, it's not all love and light, and it's not all physical. It's about balancing the two. And I read something the other day, and it just put it so perfectly, that in the new age industry, we can all the time say, get rid of your shadow, get rid of your shadow. And they want to pull the shadow out. But the shadow, when it comes up, so when my anger comes up or something like that comes up, it shows me that I am not in balance. We love our shadow. It's like, oh, you're here. Okay, what am I not doing? What am I not doing right for me, not for others? Because what other people think of us is none of our business. It's what we think of ourselves, and it allows us to pull it in and look at that piece and come back into balance. The problem is we allow the shadow and the shadow side of humanity and of Gaia has controlled the planet. This darkness, this hidden darkness that's been under the earth, on the earth, above the earth, and we've been living in shadow, even though we think we've been living in light, and we're balanced, because we chase money, we chase jobs, we chase all the things that aren't really important to us, and we need, but we feel that they're important. But what COVID has done and given people the opportunity is to reconnect with themselves and reconnect with their family. And yes, people are going into depression and everything because it's bringing up all this stuff for them, because they don't have the tools or the ability to understand at this time that it's a gift. It's their gift. God's given them, or creator, whoever you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, your soul's given you a gift to go, I don't want to live this type of life anymore. And there's, unfortunately, there's been a lot of suicide through this time as well. And but there's help out there for people that can come off of it, because it's just not depression. There's drugs that are involved in it. There's alcohol, there's gambling, there's domestic violence, there's all of this. This is all the shadow side of stuff. And when we can start to look at it as from a humanity's perspective, whether I don't like to use the word government, but look at it from a helicopter view, people that aren't in government, but people that are aware, and go, how the hell can we help these people? And most of us know, but it's teaching them how to fish rather than giving them the result. Because until you actually see something, and this is what's happening now, until you see it, you won't believe it. Until you've given it and you do it yourself, and you work through it yourself, nobody else can pull you out of that hole unless you're willing to pull yourself out. But we have been conditioned that we need others and use other things to pull us out of that hole. We need people to support us, but we can only pull ourselves out.
Can I just quickly read something? Yeah. These things just come through me, They'll wake me up at 2, 3 in the morning. I have to just get on the keyboard. I call this little one Men in Pain. Why? For me, the reason men are in so much pain is because for centuries they've been denied access to their own most powerful healing tool, which is feelings. Big boys don't cry. Suck it up, deal with it. If you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry for. Man up. These are just a few of the hammers that come to mind. In my own journey, I spent over 20 years trying to think my way out of depression, and it only got worse. And it was not until I learned how to silence my mind that I could follow my heart. So I started feeling depression and allowing those feelings that had been locked inside of me to fully express. For me, depression was a gift, for it drove me to find my own solutions. That's SOUL, solutions. That's a Bob word. So now I listen to my heart and my body and obey them. Whatever feelings I come up, I express in the moment, depending on the location, and allow them to discharge. Depression was just a spiritual wake-up call, a rite of passage, and a natural human response to having to live in such a corrupt and oppressive society. Feelings are healings, and I've come to the conclusion that the best thing I can do, and I've worked as a counsellor, the best thing I can do is simply just to let my own light shine, because that light, that shining light, attracts others, and then they start asking questions, and then the dialogue begins.
Yeah.
So thanks, Sandra. I'll have to get some tissues.
You're welcome, Bob. It's been awesome to chat with you. We're just about towards the end of the show, so I'm just like inner child. It's common. That's where we're just hurt. Most adults are hurt little children in adult bodies. Whether you are running our country, that's probably a bad example to use. Double that back in, Sandra. Rewind, delete, control delete, control Z. But we're all injured little children in adult bodies, because the child is always there. The child, and this is why so many people are triggered and they don't understand it, that something will happen and then they take it on. It's me personally, because it's all the stuff we've hung on to from our childhood. We choose wrong partners because of what's in our childhood. If we don't have a mother figure, we will choose somebody that will be a wife, that will be a mother figure for us, or what we're looking for. Same as a husband, you will choose a father figure. And this is where there's so much divorce and so much people in marriages today that are just in there. There's no love. There's nothing. They're just two people in there. Habit, trying to get what they need from another person, but it's not until you heal yourself. And I think as you get older, I've been divorced for 10 years, and it excites me because I know what I don't want. I've healed me. I healed Sandra a while ago, but it was all through my own inner child that I would take into relationships, whether it was with my children or whether it was with people out in the street, or somebody would leave a comment on Facebook or whatever. We take it and we hurt, and we think, how dare they do that? But sometimes they're not even talking about us. Technology, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of this, it brings out the inner child. It brings out the inner child wounds, because things are written there and you think, how dare they say that? And we take it personally. And the minute we take it personally, we give our power away, where we want to take our power back with love and wisdom. And it's really, really interesting to see where, as we heal, we will see more loving relationships. We'll see relationships that will last rather than relationships that don't, because most people get to around about 50 and then they go, what the hell am I doing in this relationship? Because their kids have left home, and there's just the two of them, and there's a lot of, but people do not go through and do their own stuff. They like to blame somebody else. I have a fantastic relationship with my ex-husband. We're mates because I share children with him as well, which makes it important that we can get along. But most people think that's weird because that's what they couldn't do. But it's not his fault our marriage didn't work out, and it's not my fault. We were both in it. Yeah. And it was just, we both went into it with our own baggage, and we couldn't see it. And everything at the time, you get tied up with sex and lust and all of that, and it's great. And then when all that sort of diminishes, you've got kids and a mortgage, it's like, holy shit.
Reality kicks in.
Reality kicks in. And this is why people go from the same relationship to the same relationship, because they don't look at what went wrong, or they don't do their own inner work.
Yeah. Well, Sandra, I know. It is my job to complete me.
Yeah.
And my number one job is my own well-being. And I too notice that I'm surrounded by 50-year-old, 5-year-olds. But everyone's on their own journey, hey? And for me, this whole thing about depression, for me, I could extrapolate that to make a bold statement that there is no such thing as mental illness. Because, but that's probably a topic for another show.
Yeah, I totally believe you. I know, I understand why you're saying this. I resonate with that, and that is nothing to say that people do not suffer from depression or things like that. It's not what you're trying to put out there, but I totally resonate with what you're saying, Bob.
Yeah, well, for me, I'll just give a quick example, which might sow the seed for another show, but case right. Take PTSD. Now, for me, being a loving human being, the biggest wound, the biggest sin that any human being can carry out is to go to another country and shoot somebody that looks like you. That's the biggest wound. Whether you carried it out or witnessed it, there is a price to pay. And the price that is paid is the pain and behavior that manifests in the physical because of what you allowed to happen in the spiritual. You let your mind and programming overrule your innate sense of knowing what is right and what is wrong. And so for me, all these things that are called mental illnesses, there's nothing to do with the mind. It's all in the heart. They're wounds of the soul. Yeah. And so, it's okay. We could go on for hours with this, Sandra. This is great.
I understand totally what you're saying, and we might do another show later on around that, because people already know your story, so we don't have to go back through that, and we can just do a
Good. I'm tired of sharing it.
do one on that, and because at some point, Bob, we have to let our story go, and the more we share it, the more it just becomes tiring, and we still got it around our ankle, and it's just like, that is my story, that's it, I'm done, I'm dusted, chuck it in the bin, throw it out, do whatever, because that isn't who you are. We are never what happened to us. We are who we have chosen to become. And people, we can blame our past and we can blame our parents, but at some point as adults, it's up to us to heal it. It's up to us to change it. And I know for a while, I was ever trying to chase my mother's approval on what, if I did this or if I did that. Then in the end, I realised, fuck it, I'm never going to find it. I'm never going to get it. So why bother? But it wasn't until I saw her as a woman rather than, and start to realise, this is what she's come here to teach me. This is why I chose her. For me to know that I'm enough as I am.
Yeah. Well, I've come to realise that because I take full responsibility for my life, that every event that occurs in my life holds a lesson for me.
Yeah.
And whether it's good or bad, like Cyclone Debbie destroyed my home in 2017, my boat. And people are going, oh, Bob, you've lost everything. But my response to that was, wow, it's amazing to live through a Category 5 cyclone. And also, I learnt a very valuable lesson. On the Saturday, when the winds were becoming too foul and it was really getting bouncy in the bay and I couldn't get the engine going, I just grabbed my 2 dogs, got in the dinghy, made my boat as secure as I could. I went to shore and found a safe haven. And the lesson I learnt from that event was to totally let go of the attachment to things. And I reckon on balance, I paid a fair price to learn such a valuable lesson.
That's true. That's true. When we let go of attachment, like I said, we can have whatever we want on the planet. But if we have it and we're so attached and we're hanging on so tightly, then we cannot allow anything new to come in. And I've had the nice homes, the cars, all of that when I was married to my ex-husband, because he worked in mining and I worked in corporate. And so we had the income, but we were hanging on to it so tightly. It was all about, look at what we've got and blah, blah, blah. And then the universe just took it from underneath me within 3 days of my marriage breaking up and being retrenched out of a corporate job. But it was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is
what do I do
awesome.
now?
What do I do now? But I've survived it. And, you know, you can still have all this nice stuff, but it's about what you do with it, and if you share it. You know, you can drive a $250,000 car, and if somebody didn't have a car and they wanted to borrow your car, you just go, yeah, because it's just a car. It's only because somebody else has put value on it, or that we put value on money, that it becomes a thing. And that's how we've been brainwashed to believe the value is outside, whereas value is inside.
Yeah, well, darling, I've got $50 in the bank, but I'm the richest bloke I know because I'm content. I'm content with me.
And that's all. But that's all we need to do. We're not, when we die, when we leave this planet, we're not thought of how much money we had in the bank, what sort of cars we had, what the house was, what jobs we had. We're actually remembered by our integrity, authenticity, and our honesty, and what we've done for humanity. That's what most people talk about when you die, unless you were an arsehole.
And we won't go there.
But you know what I mean. And I learnt that lesson very valuable when my dad died, because they were the main things that they spoke about at his funeral, his friends, his mates, and people that remembered him. And even now when I run into the old guys and that, you know, they'll say to me, your dad was such an honest man, or he had so much authenticity or integrity. And, you know, that's important. That's more important than what he did. They didn't care what he did for a job or what he, you know, stuff like that. We remember funny moments with him, but they were the fundamental core values that he lived his life by, that he's passed on to my two brothers and I to live our life by, which is, I didn't realise until at that time. I'm like, oh, that's what he was trying to teach us.
Yeah, well, what's the point of being buried with your Ferrari?
No, you can't.
What good is it?
I want to be buried with I want to go with a couple of bottles of vino. That'd be good.
Cheers.
So anyway, I thank you so much for joining me, Bob, and I look forward to having you back. And for everyone that's watched the show today, thank you for watching the replay. Put #replay down, and I will see you same time, same channel next week. See you all soon.
Bye, darling.